Hey guys, Jason here from Wavtech, and in today's workshop we're going to talk about how to use the summing capability in our multi-channel amplifiers, as well as what level trim does and when you need to use it. Okay, so before we get started, we have a number of features in all of our amplifiers, just like we have in our summing processors. It gives you the ability to take a factory signal that's already crossed over, that normally would not be usable with aftermarket component speakers or even full range speakers. As if it's already crossed over, it's missing some frequency range. And of course, with aftermarket components or speakers, you want to be able to cross those over how they need to be crossed over, not how the OEM chose to cross it over. So by having a multi-way summing capability up to 6 channels with what I'm going to show you here with 1000.5, that gives you the flexibility to integrate with virtually any vehicle, get a full range signal out, and then tailor it and cross over it how you need, and then adjust the level trim for the output that you want to optimize your aftermarket speakers for a huge sound upgrade. Step 1, establish which signals to use. Lots of OEM vehicles or OEM systems nowadays have pre-crossed over channels. So the first thing you need to know is what you have to work with. So in this case, I'm showing a factory tweeter crossover. Now that may be combined with a full range, mid-range like this, or it could be a part of a 3-way with a separate subwoofer like that. And so our goal here is to establish what all those channels are that you need to sum together, and then we'll go to the next step. So step 2 is to adjust the summing between channels. So in this example, we have a factory 3-way signal and we're summing it together. So on the Link 1000.5 Plus and the 700.4 and our other amplifiers, they have a switch here that is labeled input channel. And that gives you the ability to, in this case, sum the tweeter channel, which was channel 1, 2, with the mid-range channel, which is channel 3, 4. So that's 1 plus 3, 2 plus 4. And then to get a full sum is the 1 plus 3 plus 5, 2 plus 4 plus 6. And there you go. Now I've already adjusted this, but you use the gain settings to get the frequency response you want. So in effect, I can actually tailor the frequency response to a curve that I want by simply summing these together. So there we go. We've got a nice Ayaska looking kind of curve there. And that's your full range signal. Now I can send that to all of the channels, not just channel 1, 2. I can send it to channel 3, 4 and channel 5, 6. Now once I do that, we're going to get to the next step. Step 3, adjust crossovers and EQ. So what I showed you before is if you're going to use that frequency response as it is, but in this case we're actually going to want to cross it over for our aftermarket speakers. And so that in that case you want to get everything maximized flat, the maximum output. You're going to adjust your gains, which is controlling the mix between the highs, mids, and lows to get this flat response. And then I simply turn on the built-in crossover, and I adjust where I want that crossover point. So right now it's set rather low. I'll move that up, and we get a crossover, you know, say around 2K is where you want that crossover point. This is using the time 10 switch, by the way, that multiplies the range of the high pass from 50 to 500 up to 500 to 5,000. So that's the first step. Next step is we want to move on to the mid-range, or your channel 3, 4, which is going to be your mid-bass. So this is your mid-bass channel. So now I want to sum all that together, just like I did in channel 1, 2, flat response. And now I'm going to turn on the bandpass crossover. So the bandpass here enables both the high pass and the low pass. There's 2 different adjustments. So that gives me the ability to adjust the high pass down a little bit there, so we get integration with the subwoofer on the bottom side, and the low pass is the upper part of the band pass, and that's where we want that to mesh in with where we have the crossed over signal on channel 1, 2. So this is the acoustic crossover we're talking about now, and this is how you want to get your whole system to sound good together with your aftermarket speakers and subwoofers. And then on the subwoofer side, we could actually just use this signal just like it is, probably. But if we need a little bit more upper bass that's coming from the factory mid-range or mid-bass, we can sum it with that. and get a little bit more upper bass. Now, if this frequency response isn't ideal, then we're going to want to move on to the EQ. So in this case, the all of our mono amplifiers, and including the 1000.5 and the 700.4, have our parametric EQ built in. So you want to use the width adjustment, in this case maybe a little bit wider. You want to adjust the frequency response, or the center frequency of the parametric EQ about where you want to lift it. Say we want to boost that region in the sub 50 hertz range a little bit, and then we're going to use the boost to compensate for that. And you see that's fixing that little bit of a roll off there, and we can play with the width maybe a little bit wider. You see it's picking up the bottom end there. Now at this point, if you start seeing clip lights come on, you're going to want to go back and readjust your gains again. But that's how you get the response for the subwoofer, and use the parametric EQ to optimize that for the performance you want in your car, your particular vehicle, the enclosure you're running, and the subwoofer that you have. So as I mentioned, as you're messing with the EQ, or if you're getting the acoustic mixes and exactly how you want, you're going to want to go back and readjust the gains. Now that will affect your total sum. So if I go back and turn off the crossover here, so you can see, so this is the flat sum. If I turned off the crossover, if I want to go back and readjust the gains, maybe I needed a little bit more highs, or it was already clipping, so I want to reduce it a little bit. And you get that blend to the way you want, and then you cross it over in the amplifier. So after that, there's one more step, and we'll finish her up. So last step is level trim. Now level trim comes into play when you're using the 1-2 copy. So if you only have 2 channels of input and you want all 5 channels of output, you would use level trim to get more or less output out of a specific channel, because it has the same signal. So they're playing the same signal. So if you want the subwoofer channel to be hotter, you would raise up the level trim, and it gives you a 6 dB of range, which is quite a bit. So for the rear channels in a front rear setup, you're probably going to want front stage rear fill. So since you're in the case of either summing all together or feeding everything the same 2 channels all the way through, you wouldn't have any ability to adjust those separately. So the gain is what's creating the mix, your summed response, or channel 1-2 is your gain for all the other channels, because it's copying the signal after its gain stage. So these gains are no longer active. So you need another way to adjust the level, and that's where level trim comes into play. So we're on the rear channels now, and you want the rear fill, the front stage rear fill. So you're going to turn down your rears relative to the front, and now you've got that front stage rear fill. And the same goes for the subwoofer channels. If you got your 3-way sum correct, and you need a little bit more output, but you don't want to mess with your mix or the frequency response you got with your 3-way sum in this case, then you would use the level trim on the subwoofer channel, and you would bring that up until you reach clipping. And again, if you've added EQ, you're gonna want to readjust your gain or the EQ, or both, in combination with the level trim. The level trim will not change the gain, it won't change your mix, but it will give you more output up to the clipping point, and you'll see the clip light come on when you've reached maximum output. So there you have it. There we took a factory 3-way crossed over signal, and we got it to a flat frequency response. We added the built-in crossovers in the 1000.5 to acoustically tune it appropriate to our aftermarket system. And then we did that for all the channels. We readjusted the gain as needed to get the maximum output of the amplifier. Then we used the level trim to get the relative output of, say, front stage rear fill, or you needed more bass without disturbing the sum. It's as simple as that. Ultimate flexibility for any vehicle out there. Hey guys, so it's that simple. There you have it. That's how you sum multi-channel, multi-way factory signals into a flat signal, cross it over how you want, and then adjust the output how you want with level trim. If you need more info, or you'd like to check out our other products, please check out our website at wavtech-usa.com.